Joseph, what do you think about that? Was that really appropriate that because Thangham had gone on that demonstration that she was hauled to her constituency Labour Party to explain herself?
No, I don't think it was. I obviously don't know what happened at the meeting, but I think you have every right to go to that demonstration and support your constituents, and that's absolutely right, and I don't think that should be criticised, so... But
it was by the constituency Labour Party, and they asked her to agree that claims of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party are unfounded and untrue. Do you think that too?
No, I think that's an unwise form of words, and I wouldn't support that. Look, I think people get very angry and they think that... Look, what I want to say is broadly, I think anti-Semitism must be never tolerated anywhere on the political spectrum. I think what's a problem is when that gets politicised, when people say it's only the Labour Party or it's only one faction of the Labour Party. That actually doesn't help us defeat anti-Semitism. That makes people think it's all about factionalism and party politics.
Is it true?
What?
That there is anti-Semitism in one faction of the Labour Party?
I think anti-Semitism in all politics and all of society. I think there's racism in all politics and all society. And the way you tackle that is by tackling it across the board with broad-based education, broad-based anti-racism training.
Right. Who are Jewish Voice for Labour? Because our viewers may not know. And who do you represent?
We are a Jewish group in the Labour Party for... Jews in Labour to express their Jewishness, come together, campaign for Labour. We have hundreds of Jewish Labour members, and we work together. We do culture, we do politics, and like many groups, there are many cultural groups within the Labour Party, and we're one of them.
Right. So why are other Jewish groups not happy to sit with you round a table with Jeremy Corbyn to talk about anti-Semitism?
The Jewish community is very diverse. The idea that there is one Jewish community is not actually correct. And the thing about community outreach is it's a little bit naive to think you can invite everyone around one round table and everyone will agree to speak to everyone else.
But you've just said,
it's not like that.
Like all other Jewish groups, anti-Semitism is something that shouldn't exist in society. So why do you think they don't want you there?
You have to ask them. I think there's always been divisions within the Jewish community, and lots of people don't like each other. And I think what's happened now is Jeremy Corbyn has said, OK, I'll meet every group individually, talk to you separately, get your insights and feed that back in how we can improve our anti-racism training. I think that's a sensible policy going forward.
I mean, is it partly because you don't recognise in the same way that other Jewish groups do what anti-Semitism is or what is deemed to be anti-Semitic?
No, I mean, we accept anti-Semitism as a reality and we combat it.
Sure.
There are some politicised groups. I'm not talking about any mainstream groups that definitely blur the lines with criticism of Israel. We don't accept that. There must be a strict division between criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism, and those that use anti-Semitic language in criticising Israel are wrong, and I stand against that.
Right. So if we look at the motion from some of the members in Bristol West, it said the anti-Semitism issue has been weaponised to damage Jeremy Corbyn. And it went on to say, when people see unprecedented wealth in the private hands of a few, it is reasonable that they seek out explanations. Does that sound anti-Semitic? It
does sound pretty problematic. And I was in touch with a member who claimed that this was nothing to do with Jews as an expression of capitalism and inequality. I don't know. It definitely doesn't sound great. So
right. Is it anti-Semitic?
Well, you have to understand it's not always a binary. It's not always anti-Semitic or it isn't.
Well, it is. You said it's problematic and you said it's inappropriate. Is it anti-Semitic to imply that Jews have an unprecedented amount of wealth in their hands?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know if that's what the motion was doing, but yes.
Well, it followed.
It is.
Right. But do you think that was anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Right, you do. OK.
I want to make the point that discourse is complex and you can't always draw fine lines on this, and that doesn't actually help us to try and say that it's always A or B.
But then how do you define as a party when people are being anti-Semitic if there isn't a general agreement of what constitutes anti-Semitism? You both agreed that that was. Let me ask you another question. I mean, I think you did agree, didn't you? Is it racist to say that Jews are overrepresented in the media and in the world of banking?
Yes.
Right, that is racist.
Because it presumes there's correct representation, which is not how the world works.
Right.
We're individuals.
Right, OK. So you do have a specific idea of what is anti-Semitic.
Hatred of Jews. I mean, it's not complex. I mean, we don't need to have long definitions to understand that hatred of Jews, like hatred of black people, hatred of Asian people, is racism.
Right. So that's not being politicised, is it? That's not the issue being politicised.
What I'm concerned about is when you have figures like Norman Tebbit, who was at that demonstration, and Norman Tebbit invented the cricket test to talk about dual loyalties. Now, someone like that is not an anti-racist, and we cannot treat them as authority. So that's what bothers me.
Is there a witch hunt against Jeremy Corbyn? Is this being used as a smear?
I think some people are politicising this with the Conservative Party. I think some people more broadly, and that's the problem for me. You must treat it across the board. When you try and make it about one party, it actually damages the fight against anti-Semitism.
Do you agree?